We are starting soon. Welcome back to another episode of the Album Book Club. This week we are checking out In Danger of Collapse by Heimwerker. This album came out April 27th of this year, 2025. This is Heimwerker's first studio album. Cool fun fact about them is in English, their name translates to vaguely handyman, but also like do it yourself. It's not an exact translation. But this album is grossly mislabeled on Apple Music. It says it is metal. They call it Post-Apocalyptic Province Punk from an evil parallel universe beyond the chairs, furniture, and all the horrible planets.
There was more?
There was more. That's off their Bandcamp, according to Google.
That fits really neatly on the divider at the record store.
Yeah, that's... which side of Carl's record store does that go on? Good music or bad music?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Ooh, we peaked a little there.
Carson laughed.
True.
All right, let's go ahead and hop right into our top three. I have Secondhand Emotion, Mystic Punk, and Your Cold Heart of Stone.
My top three are Bob She Wo Wee, Secondhand Emotion, and Mystic Punk.
Mine are Keymaster's Hole, Secondhand Emotion, and I Hate My Band.
Wow. That last one's diabolical.
Yes.
My top three is My Hamster is in Pain, Mystic Punk, and Bob She Wo Wee.
All right. Let's move on to bottom tracks. I picked The Beast.
I picked Heavy Metal Band.
I guess it doesn't count because they should all be outro noise pollution.
I went with that's an outro, not a track. So.
I understand that is a cop-out.
That is nothing.
And if I had to pick a real one, it's probably going to be I Hate My Band, but my official answer is going to be outro noise pollution.
But my other one is The Beast, so.
Yeah, most valid choice.
You know, it's crazy. I didn't have too much of a problem with that song.
Oh, we'll get to it when we get to it.
I think I had really stupid reasoning for not having a problem with that song, but...
All right. Let's go ahead and start with track number one here. Intro, In Danger of Collapse. I gave it a 4 out of 10.
I gave it a 3 out of 10.
I actually gave this one a 6.
I gave it a 5.
It was on a 6 when I thought about it because I was like, the rules. Then the longer it went on, the less I liked it. We got just weird, glitchy horns and stuff. And then, like, if Arnold Schwarzenegger was a Dalek, it was just not my vibe.
Yeah, the vocal lines are or whatever vocal thing is going on, it's almost incomprehensible. I really wasn't into what was going on in the background. It was really disorientating for me. I think that's the point, but it doesn't mean I like it.
So I wrote it later, but his vocals are kind of somewhere between Elvis and Muscle Man if there was a German accent. And I really had a hard time with it, but I didn't notice it so much at the first track.
I'll say, is the actual vocalist even on this?
I don't know. I think it may just be somebody speaking.
I couldn't tell if it was samples or just something.
If this was samples, it is definitely from media beyond me.
Yeah, the rules was my big thing. There's something else. Oh, yeah, on my like pre-listen of this, I thought there was an actual like song part at the end of this. I was wrong.
I mean, there sort of is. They kind of say "in danger of collapse" a couple times. They almost.
Yeah, but in nothing other than that, is there anything that has any song structure? I guess it's an intro.
I think it also made me mad because it really set up the belief in my mind that this was going to be a concept album. And if there is a concept here, they certainly did not yell it enough times in my face. All right, you guys ready for track number 2?
Mm-hmm.
This is Black Sheep in My Funky Galaxy. I gave this a 5.5.
I gave it a 5.
I gave this one a 6 as well.
I gave this one a 6.
How did you
I think we said that out of order, Carl.
You were looking at him. You said 6 as well, Connor.
Psychic sometimes. I don't know, man.
He knew it was coming. He knew what I was going to say.
Yeah, that was weird.
All right, when this one started, I was actually getting kind of excited. And that is a common theme for me in this album. I think a lot of these intros bang. And then the vocals hit, and I just wince. Because everything in the background changes, everything gets pulled back, it all becomes a lot more simple, and it really chooses to focus on the vocal performance. But it leaves us with like this kind of lack of everything in the middle. Like we have almost a lack of substance going on. I think it has some really good energy, and some of the goofy lyrics I do find funny. But overall, there's just not enough going on. I think this one had the guitar solo that was like 5 seconds long, maybe. Like he got to hit a lick at the end of the thing, and it just cut him off.
I think it was like 10 seconds, but it was like... And that was it.
Right?
It was like various goofing up bits.
So was this the one, or is that a different one where the solo is just pretty much going up a scale?
That's a different one.
Okay.
There's also one later where he definitely is nailing the solo for like 15 seconds and then just hits the worst run like of any guitar player's dreams and can't quite recover. That's just a common theme with solos on this.
Yeah, this one had, believe it or not, an okay transition between this one and the last one, but that's because it ends in like radio switching, and it's really... It's easy to do that kind of transition, and most of the time it sounds pretty good, and it does here. I'm getting all my good out of the way. It's got great energy. A lot of this album does, and I think I could probably break some traffic laws listening to this song. That being said, this song and the next couple, I am not liking the mixing, especially on the vocals. It does fix itself later, but for a couple songs here, it's like there's way too much compression on the master. It's not even just the vocals. The vocals get hit, I think, the worst with it, but it's everything.
Yeah, I don't agree with that in any way, but that's because I think they flat out just went into a room, the whole band, with like a bunch of SM57s and just recorded what they were playing. Because these guys are playing together. They're going... Mm-hmm. with the drummer who may or may not be in time all the time.
So to say they're changing time together.
So I don't think it's necessarily that too much compression's there. I think it's just that whatever mixer they threw their vocalist in, he probably sounded fine in the room, but just the whole overall recording was too low. I think he's just too quiet.
If this isn't the first and only take, I will eat this piece of paper. It is literally, it's overcompressed. It's not mixed at all. What it is mixed is terrible. The drummer is literally never in time. He's almost never in time the whole rest of the album. And you know what? That's not abnormal for a punk album. And I was expecting that going into this, except he's going the wrong way. He slows down the momentum on every track instead of speeding it up. Your whole thing as a punk drummer is just to like kick everyone in the tail and make them keep running. That's the whole thing you're supposed to do. I don't know. I kind of liked the lo-fi-ness on this one because it kind of helped it fade from the last one, because the last one was so weird. I think that's how it ended up with the score it ended up with, and everything just kind of takes a dive from here. But, I liked the energy. I just wish they had kept the tempo at least relatively moving forward instead of just slowing down the whole time. I mean, they lost like 20, 30 clicks in the first 10 seconds the drummer was in.
I think a lot of that comes down to something we were talking about a little pre-show, which is it's very common for punk albums to all be very short. You get like 12 2-minute songs. This is like 15 various length songs, and it's just hard to keep. It's hard to keep pace up, energy up, and that like raw feel when you go past a certain time, because then it doesn't feel authentic anymore. You know, it's like you're punk, but dude, it's been 5 minutes. How punk are you, man?
I mean, I can think of a lot of bands that play long songs fast, but the big problem with what they're doing here, making them longer, is they don't add any lyrics in to do it. They just repeat sections and just beat us over the head with it rather than just making it short and sweet.
That's what I'm saying is, yeah, just because it's that one thing, if you're doing it for that long, you lose the point anymore. It's just annoying. And all I've done is talk negatively about this. I came into this song thinking it was going to be metal, and then I got slapped in the face with punk, which was kind of refreshing. I like that rawness they have there. It makes sense. It could have definitely been recorded better, but I understand it. My problem is exactly with the fact that it goes too long without adding anything to itself. There's no progression there, which is fine, I guess, if you don't want to, but cut half the track length off then. If you're not going to do, okay, this is a refrain here or something like that where you change up the chord progression or even add in a solo for the bass player or for some reason, do something else.
Yeah, it's just interesting. We're complaining a lot about the mix, but it's honestly like at this point in time, I don't give anyone a pass anymore because we have so many free tools that are available or low-cost tools that are available. I mean, you could have got the mix a little closer and then sent it to some sort of mastering AI, and that's like what you could have paid $200 for the whole album. I mean, $250 maybe for a year subscription. They're not that expensive at this point.
Less than that.
Well, I think even if you're going for that raw aspect, just turn the vocalist up. You have to be able to at least put headphones on and go, oh wow, that dude's quiet.
Yeah, they do that later.
Raw doesn't mean unmixed. Those are two separate.
I know, but you're talking about going to AI and mastering. I guarantee you they hit record on a board and then they hit publish.
Yeah, that's just not acceptable in today's market, unfortunately. It's just not.
If you want raw punk, it is, and that's what this is. This isn't meant to get millions of followers. I guarantee you this is meant to get 12 dudes in a dive bar really hype. Raw
punk gets mastered. I'm telling you, it all gets mixed. It all gets mastered. Anything that you were listening to on a CD or any of that stuff. And the thing is, people think it's this whole problem of technology and all this, and we have all of this available to us. Like, use it, essentially. And then that's the only time I'll say it. I feel like their scores are probably a little lower than they have been on some stuff in the past, just because I don't give them a pass, because it's a band and it's guys that should know better to do this stuff. Don't know.
Yeah, I think it comes down to their sound and how they want it to sound. But yeah, that's all subjective. We'll move right into our next track here, though, with Further and Further. I gave that a 6 out of 10.
I also gave it a 6 out of 10.
I gave it a 5.
Oh, I also gave it a 6.
Dang.
Sorry.
Look, it's got a good groove to it. That's the positives. There's too many effects going on without any sort of gate on anything. They're all cross-talking. Everything's bleeding, and it just drowns everything out.
Except the synth. The synth doesn't bleed at all because it was recorded in post.
As I said, that is definitely direct line.
Yeah, I liked the synths, but I also thought it was funny that they sampled our Bath Synth Wah demo from last week's video. We'll plug that real quick, but that was the whole thing, or the whole intro of this. I was like, did they take that from our video? That's not possible, right?
I did really like the intro on this one. Again, got slapped in the face and the vocals came in again. I dig the synth stuff going on. I just wish it was a little bit more interesting. It's kind of like the last track where I feel like we have a bit of a lack of substance. The vocals were starting to get repetitive around like 3 minutes into the song, and this is like a 5.5 minute song. I looked at the time left and I was like, oh, good lord, we have that much left, and they do the chorus like 3 or 4 more times. This one is just like far too long, and it needs a lot of fat trimmed off.
That is a theme we will see quite a few more times on this album too.
It's like every other song.
I don't know if like one of these guys has a musical background and the other ones don't really, if they're just having fun hanging out, but like the drummer bit off a lot more than he could chew at the beginning, trying to play like an electronic style beat. And I mean, I understand there's people of all sorts of skill levels and all sorts of stuff, and like as someone who is a pro drummer, like I get it, but also like you need to be in time or play something else, really. And that was that part was a little interesting, but he fixed it later. But that's how it ended up with a 5 instead of a 6. It's that was kind of the base score for all the songs on this album, and I subtracted from there.
Good lord.
Yeah, it's you get a lot in just German music of electronic drumming for no reason. I don't understand why it's so popular.
Rammstein, stuff like that.
That's the exact answer.
Whatever.
Rammstein.
Well, and I'm sure there's other people in that genre, and it goes all the way back to. I'm gonna sound like an idiot because I don't know the. I'm thinking like krautrock, like Kraftwerk, stuff like that, which I don't know if technically is krautrock, but that whole genre of music, the influences we got from electronic music actually came from Germany and that kind of area. It kind of leaked into our music, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that all the way back, to like almost the invention of the drum machine, and they were very synth heavy very early and all that stuff. So it makes sense that it was there. It does. I almost would have just put a drum machine in layered, and
that's what I'm saying. Is like I think if you're gonna do the electronic drum, just do the electronic drum.
I mean, yeah. So I love Radiohead. I don't think Phil Segway is a great drummer, and whenever they do the electronic stuff, they just have him play along with the drum machine, and it all works.
That's the way you do it. All right, move on to track 4. Why does it feel so wrong? 6 out of 10.
I also gave it a 6 out of 10.
What's this one? Oh, this one's also a 5.
I gave this one a 4.
Who wants to start?
I'm getting real tired of these songs starting off real cool. It's pissing me off at this point. I'm like, okay, we've gotten 3 songs in a row that have started out super great, and then they just drop everything to focus on a vocal line about mustard. It did make me giggle. I'm not even going to front about that. I thought it was kind of funny. I was kind of having a good time in the middle of this one, and that's kind of what got it the extra point there. I just couldn't take it seriously at all. And that helped it in the long run. They have a really neat bass. We just need a lot more expression, like, through their music.
Did I say Phil Selway? Did I say the right person from Radiohead? Oh, well. Sorry. These kind of things linger in my brain. No, this one had a couple really, like, annoying things to me. The weird vocal panning that happens later in the track was, like, horrifying. That being said, I actually listened to this one in the Gradio. Jesus, I can't speak. Sorry. I listened to this one in the Grados instead of the Sonys to give it a fair shot because as a punk album, I didn't want to critique the mix. I put it in my smeary headphones. Anyway, the guitar was cool when you could hear it.
He was about to burst.
The vocal was awesome, mixed the whole time. I just don't understand why he had to do a Cookie Monster impression. And like, not like joking, like his growling sounded almost exactly like Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. And Cookie Monster's known internationally, right? I mean, that's not like a thing that's just me being against Germany.
Whoa.
I said that's not what I am. I'm not. I swear, I actually... I talked about Kraftwerk a minute ago.
I'm just letting you dig the hole, man.
No, it's fine.
You
Connor
talked about Rammstein. He's good.
Yeah,
he's good.
Connor's going to edit it to where it looks like I've said something terrible anyway. So
Carl, we're live.
yeah. See? Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I'm going to say. The rest of my notes are mean.
This is the first time I really noticed the no-click track. I'm sure it was there on the last one too, but this one I think started off with it. It also started off with the Batman theme song, which I thought was weird. It's almost 1-to-1 for a second. It fixes it later, but this is also the first one where the vocals are mixed in a way where I can hear them. So, yay to that. And then my last note just says mustard. So
You caught it too.
yeah, I didn't catch the vocal panning though. I completely missed that, which is weird.
It was really weird when it was there because it was like bouncing.
Huh.
Weird.
Yeah, the intro riff was fun, solid, it's fine. They started whispering mustard at me. Didn't like that much. But
He's
yeah,
on the anti-mustard gang, Connor.
it's because I
So
yell.
am I.
I yell mustard at Connor all the
Hold on.
time.
Was it a Clue? Or were we playing Clue? Was it Colonel Mustard in the dining room with a rusty blade? Is that one of the characters?
Colonel Mustard,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Dining room, yes. I don't believe Rusty Blade.
Hmm.
I haven't played Clue in at least a decade.
I think that's probably the only weapon I could have said on YouTube. So
Candlestick.
candlestick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
But no, this song is just what Germans do best, which is not take themselves seriously. And it's real funny because you'll never guess that by the tone of the singer's voice. But it's just goofy. It's fun. It's not the greatest song in the world, but it's not the worst. It's certainly not the worst on this album. So it's just there, man. All right, we'll take that'll take us to track 5, Heavy Metal Band. I gave this a 5 out of 10.
1.5.
4.
5.
All right, you guys know why it gets a 1.5 for me.
I know.
Come on. It's stereo the entire time,
That's not what I thought.
and it gave me a serious headache. I had to take a full 15-minute break from this album after this song. I don't know what stereo does to my ears, but for some reason it just pings it in the right way, where it starts hurting my ears, it starts giving me headaches really quick, and this is like a full 5-minute song, and I hated it the whole time. The vocals are coming
set your phone
through.
up to mono only. So we ought to set your phone up to mono only.
Probably. But also, hearing that it's in stereo makes me hate the song more, so I have more to bitch about.
We'll teach you where the setting is. You can turn it off once a week.
But, actual music side of things, I think this chorus really needs to be beefed up. It feels really,
Oh,
it feels really thin. It almost turns it into a track that just feels like it's just there. And when they do more stuff in this track, like when they beef out that guitar tone and they allow them to do really cool stuff in the background, it sounds really good. And that made me even more mad at the song. Because it's like, you're teasing me with this great musicianship right here. Give me more of it. Stop hiding behind the vocalist. Just come out and play your instruments, damn it.
Yeah, this one had the perfectly adequate organ. I have to make the joke. I think that's the only thing you didn't talk about.
Probably.
Other than the fact that I'm just not even talking about the drummer anymore. This is the last time I'm going to say it.
So what about the oompa beat they have going on the organ that got so egregiously out of time? But not because it was ever messed up, but because the drummer slipped up so bad.
Yeah, I bet they recorded the organ to a grid in post.
Mm-hmm. It's perfectly in time.
There's also some really, really strange guitar processing on this one. I wrote weird. I wrote weird twice, so it must be absolutely bonkers, whatever it is.
Yeah, I actually like the organ. It was a welcome change from the last couple songs. And I thought the solo that it had was pretty good, even though it was nowhere near in time with the rest of the band. It was probably the only thing in time, but I thought it was cool. But this song is very repetitive, and Carson kind of touched on it, but I thought the chorus, I don't think it needed more. I thought it was very annoying, most of the time.
Oh, yeah, no, it's annoying. This song is way too long to be this bad.
Mm-hmm.
That was the phrase I have here at the end of my notes, and I thought it was too mean to say, but whatever. No, I do have a secondary score written up top, and it's a 5 out of 10 without stereo. If this didn't have stereo on it, it would be a 5 out of 10 for me. But the fact that I did listen to it in stereo, and it gave me a headache, it's unlistenable.
Yeah. when I first started listening to this song, I had to take my headphone out and audibly laugh at an oompa beat and then heavy metal band in my. It was hilarious. And then it ends with like a dude groaning in my ears. Not a fan with that.
Where's Steven when you need
Yeah,
him?
where's Steven when you need him? Also, the bass on this song, I think homie went over to his amp. Was like, I'm ashamed.
Oh, Logan, there's a shelf there.
There's a shelf there. I think he was ashamed to even play. I didn't hear bass at all. You might have just taken a break.
I think that I go this entire album without recognizing the bass till like the very end.
There's some like random spots where you'll hear like a flick and you're like, oh, he's there.
That's actually my favorite feature of the Grados. They completely remove the bass guitar from anything I listen to. So.
Well, you weren't missing much. It takes us into...
Except for that one song. There's one it's on that I like a lot.
All right, we'll go to track 6. My Hamster is in Pain. I give this a 4.5.
I gave it a 4.
3.
7.
This is where I started to feel like if I could give a thumbs up to every track on this album, I would. Throughout this track, we hear it. We hear these little bits of, this sounds good, but they just keep ruining it. And it starts to really kind of irk me. Lyrically, I think this is terrible. I didn't have a great time with it. And this song was also so long that I thought I went to a different track in the album and I lost my spot during my review. I was like, okay, where am I? Like, what track am I on?
That's really weird because I have a note that this is one of the shorter songs.
I'm pretty sure this one's like 5 minutes long.
If it is, it don't feel like it.
So I'm just going to read the entirety of my notes. I should have written them as a haiku. I'm very sorry. The guitar intro is fine. Everything after the intro is not. I am in pain.
Carl is the hamster.
Yes.
I had no problem lyrically with this. I thought it was just a very not taken seriously song. I thought they were doing it for jokes. I can respect that. This one's only a little bit out of time, which I can also respect. And until Carson tells me that this song is like 5.5 minutes.
No, this one's actually one of the shorter ones, yeah.
That's what I thought.
I thought it was
yeah.
like 3, yeah.
I thought it was under 2.
I don't know how I lost my place in there, though, but it must have lost my attention really bad.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. It's fine. It just exists. It just wasn't anything, you know? It was like, my hamster's in pain. Oh, cool, dude. Next track. You know,
it tells the story of how he's going to the doctor for it, and he's not helping him.
I guess
he's
I
telling a
didn't-
tragic story here.
I don't
Okay.
want to hear it.
Okay, so if you compare this song directly to Lime and the Coconut by Nilsson Schmilsson, it's basically the same song, and I think I actually like it more, so I'm going to take it up to a 3.5.
Come on, just bump it to the 4 to match it.
Nah, it's all right. I think I'm being
Bump it
generous.
up to a 7 real quick.
Bump it up to a 10.
Yeah, give it a 10. It deserves it.
All right, before Carl succumbs to peer pressure, we'll move on to track 7, The Beast. I gave this a 2.
I give it a 6.
I gave it a 2.5.
I also give it a 6.
Do we want to talk about how they never start off on time or finish in time? There is not 1 second of this where that drummer is on beat with anyone else, ever.
So I really liked the tone of this song because it reminded me of middle school cafeteria. Everything was overcooked around the edges and raw in the center. And I don't even know how to explain that musically if you haven't heard this song. Sorry, you can continue now. I just wanted to make that point before you took it.
All of my notes are literally that this song just sucks. It's not even a song. If you replaced the drummer with just a click track, it would be better. I'm sorry, but he railed the song into the dirt. It is so out of time.
It is very out of time. But I can ignore it because there's more going on. And I'm not having to listen about hamsters in pain or stereo the whole time. So I was like, thank God it's normal again. This was a return to formula for me. I was like, the guitar line's all right. The vocals, like the sustained vocals, are pretty rough. Like when he starts to sustain his voice, it gets really frail up there. And the guitar did get to try and be cool for more than 5 seconds this time. It was like 30, but probably not even. It was probably more like 15.
I hope one day they're able to befriend the beast.
Hopefully.
Don't worry, this is the only other song in this album I actually absorbed the lyrics to. It'll stop soon, but I didn't hate this one. It's another not as serious or not serious song with very not serious lyrics. I didn't like, and I should have probably listened more to the drums than I did across the board on this album, but I thought it was fine.
I was like trying to figure out the tempo on my chest, and I gave up halfway through.
This was the point where I had pretty much already just acknowledged and stopped listening. I do have a note that I like to ride the beast. That's a very specific.
It's a pretty fun roller coaster.
Yeah, very very specific local
Dude
reference.
just doxed us.
I was about to say how many miles that was away, and that would have actually doxed us.
It's so many miles you wouldn't even
3,000
believe.
miles.
So many miles.
That's 2,000 less miles than I would walk to ride the beast.
Because you would walk 500 and 500 more.
I'd do it 10 times, yeah. As long as I get to scream pterodactyl.
Can we get your best pterodactyl?
No.
Come on. See, Logan did it.
I don't want to clip the audio. I like mumbling. I'm way up on the mixer. It's fine.
Hey, just turn Carl down real quick.
It's going to clip the second you do it when Carson laughs at it anyway.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
We'll go ahead and mute Carson's track and get picked up by everyone's mic.
Everyone can just pause here and go watch the clip of Peter Griffin yelling pterodactyl in the recording studio when they're recording it.
Conor will edit that in post. All right, track 8. Bob Shiwowi gave this a 5.
Give it a 6.5.
This one got a 4.
7.
Look, this one's a fun song. It's pretty aight. It's very like 50s, 60s oriented. And then it just throws all of that out the window like halfway through and screws it all up.
Sorry, I read my notes. I wrote the B-52s meets My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, that's
pretty
exactly
accurate,
it.
yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
So this one, I started off with a great note. I said the intro slaps, so I know the rest of the song's gonna be insufferable. Let's go. The vocal intro was actually horrendous. I don't know how it was that much worse than it was in the songs previous. I don't like the chorus at all at this point. So after I listened to the song for a little bit longer, the chorus kind of began to grow on me. I was seeing the fun in it. I was kind of laughing along with it. And it's mainly because it really sounds like they're having fun while they're doing it. That's really what got me. It sounds like they're having a absolute amazing time recording this. And that kind of like fun, infectious energy came through. And I wish we had more moments like that throughout the rest of this album. I wish we got more of that like emotion coming through, more of that passion coming through.
I just wish I had fun listening to it.
Here's my biggest problem with this album. If us four, as we sit in like our current states on our instruments, right? If us four went into a studio and any one of us decided to sing, I think we could put something out that's better than this. And that's...
Logan.
It's just because the timing. None of them are playing to a click. No one is doing anything right. They're having fun. That's okay. You don't put that out.
I feel like if we made an album, it would just be a production nightmare.
It would be a back-end nightmare.
This dude's trying to blame me for everything. I swear to God.
No, I feel like the arguments that all of us are going to have with each other during that phase.
Little
is
do you
what it
know,
would
I've
be.
already planned a video around that exact scenario. If that ever happens, the people are going to know, and it's going to be very entertaining to watch.
It's going to be all fun and games until the album book club loses a cast member.
I was going to say, yeah, it's just going to be us all screaming at each other because we all have done producing before.
Don't worry about it. I've fixed that problem with the video.
Okay.
And now, afterwards,
We're
it's
not
gonna
in
be
the
a
room
nightmare.
together.
Do
yet.
I get to be ref because I don't do producing?
Yeah, Carson can be the ref.
Oh, this is the one that got the Elvis meets Muscle Man reference too.
This one had a bass guitar. That's all I need. It's a little too long. The bass line's fun. The energy's good. I did not have any problems with this song. I thought it was fun. I mean, it was a little too long, but like, oh well.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one that if you polish up, put out as a single, it'd do good. It'd do numbers. I think you can only say that about 3 tracks on here. You got a solid half of an EP.
I think there's a decent EP on here.
Here's the
For
thing.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is,
Yeah, the 3
while
songs in
you-
the last track.
while I don't think you necessarily have good studio songs, I bet this as a live show would be pretty fine. This is a punk live show, killer.
I kind of wonder where they would, if they were over here. I think they'd have to play in a German restaurant, which is the weirdest thing for me to say.
I bet they'd have to play in like the basement of a church that is like abandoned. That's
sick.
That's the vibe. Like, this is not music I think should be anywhere near corporatization in any way, for everyone's sake. If you let money grubby people get their hands on it, you lose your fun. If you start over mixing it, you lose the sound that you're going for. And then, like, obviously, we're gonna get our hands on it and do what we're doing now, which is rip it to shreds. But if I went to this live show, I bet it would be a lot of fun. They've got great energy. They're having fun with each other. That's what matters. Great live. Live people don't always translate to a studio.
It's really hard to overmix something when there's only like 3 tracks, by the way.
That too.
But yeah, I actually wrote things are overall much better on this song. So I think what happened is I got so burned out by this like spiral down into the beast, and it started building back up, and I wasn't ready to give it another chance. So I think if I listened to this song on its own, I would have scored it a little higher.
That's the other thing. I do think almost the entire second half of this album is a product of the first half being so bad. Because once you get to, we're at what, track 8? The back, like, 8 are not as terrible. Now, the next score doesn't reflect that, but...
Yeah, forget everything you just said when we move on to the next song.
After that, it's good to go. We'll go on to track 9, I Hate My Band. I give this a 2 out of 10.
Give it a 4.
I give this one a 6.
I gave it 3.
All right. The German vocals made me very angry because how much better they sound than the English vocals. Why wasn't this whole album in German? I feel like it would have sounded so much better when I heard those German vocals. It just solidified in my mind that these guys are like just not doing enough.
Maybe
Change the vocals over to German. They sound a whole lot better. Put more in the backtracks.
I can tell you exactly why, because they released it in the U.S. Americans think German vocals sound scary, and the only music it sounds good in is like Rammstein or like other music that could be on the Doom soundtrack.
I thought it sounded great here.
Yeah, you like metal music.
Right.
That's the problem.
There's a lot of people that like metal music.
Yeah, but how many people like crappy mixed metal music?
Anybody who's
enough.
into like punk.
There's actually not a lot of people that like metal music. Metal's the only genre that has more players than listeners. Real facts.
That is actually true. Metal is like a dying genre on streaming and stuff. It's because all these old heads are liking it, and then you have fake metal coming in now, and a lot of people are getting really pretentious about it, so they choose like 6 bands, and that's all they listen to.
Well, everyone that listens to metal's in a metal band. That's the other.
That too, yeah. Except us. Hey, you guys
For
want to
now.
start a metal band? Yeah, look, man, this song's just look, I don't want to say I flat out don't like a song, but what I will say is I don't understand this song in any way. It just sounds so like random. That he's like, someone wrote this like, yeah, I hate my band, and then they just scream it at the mic a bunch, and everyone's just kind of going nuts together, but not together in any way.
You know what this reminded me of? This reminded me of all of my favorite Anthrax songs, where they're just like partying on stage and having fun.
I love Anthrax, but they're in time with each other.
That's kind of what what Carl said is kind of what I thought this song was, is like just chaos happens at the show. Like my first note is, do they start fighting each other on stage? Because that'd be sick at a show. A song about hating your band, you start beating each other up.
Oh, that'd be
That'd
great.
be great.
At a show.
Yeah,
Does anyone
mean-
else think that this chorus is objectively terrible?
yes.
I actually really liked it. I liked the
I actually
comedy.
didn't mind it. It was pretty fun.
This also had the best intro on the album for me.
This was, to me, the worst musically. And it's just because some of the other songs developed a little more. This one is on the shorter side, so it's got that going against it. Is it not?
No.
It's like 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Which is
longer.
most. This is all
So-
the rest of my notes. Is this could have ended at 2:45?
yeah,
But if you really had to, there's too much outro.
there's too
And
much outro.
Cut it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they devolve into like screaming school children, just cut that out.
That might have been
Stop
when
it.
I just checked out of the song.
Also, did anyone else peek that he had to buy a new dog every day he woke up? Like, that
Yeah.
must really suck. But then again, he is living in an evil parallel universe.
I did catch that.
I caught that and I was like, that's so funny. And I think we get golden nuggets of humor throughout this entire album. And
I
it's great.
think this entire album, from a humor perspective, is brilliant. It is some of the funniest stuff you've ever heard. I can't say so much from the music perspective, but comedy-wise, you got a hit here.
So I think I figured out why it scored so high. The drums, I put drums mostly in time. So I think the chaos made the drums seem like they were correct.
Oh, I think the drums were just like one tempo most of the time, while everyone else wasn't. So I suppose that does make the drums correct, yeah. Oh my gosh. Ooh, rough track. All right.
You know what's funny? All of the positive notes for the Monday Wednesday reel just happened. That's all I need.
I've got some good ones from here on out.
It's gonna be a very misleading Monday Wednesday reel.
Track 10, Your Cold Heart of Stone. Gave this a 6.
I gave it a 5. And I'll get this out of the way.
I also gave it a 5.
I gave it a 6, and I'll get this out of the way.
Hell
Yep.
yeah.
All right, Logan.
Carson, you're at 3 for this week.
New sound engineer.
So I really liked the guitar tone, but the guitar tone is so good everything else can't be.
Yeah, this is where I think the singer took over on everything, because you can now hear the vocals front and center, the way they're supposed to be for their sound.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar sounds great. The bass is somewhere, and the drums, man, they're louder. Actually, that's a lie. They got quieter, but they filled in more.
Yeah, this one was really interesting to me because I could tell someone tried to mix, but they like static mixed everything for the whole song, rather than putting in any automation or, I don't know, splitting tracks at different points or doubling tracks or doing any of the cool tricks. So this is the song where I figured out, I was like, oh, they probably just are learning as they're doing this. And I've given a lot of tips over the time, some nuggets, but my biggest one will be figure out how to do some automation so that you can have that killer guitar intro and then duck it down so that it's the same level as the rest of the band, and that way you don't have to bring the band up to kill the vocals, because that would have fixed most of the mix problems in the song. I don't know. It's still out of time.
All right. We'll talk about track 11, Mystic Punk. I give this one a 6 out of 10.
I also gave this one a 6.
Whoa, me 3. Also a 6.
Should I drop mine down to a 6 just to match?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, it was a 7, but peer pressure has got me down to a 6.
it deserves
Sorry,
it.
guys.
Dare I say that this one was going hard. There were some flaws still. I cannot deny that.
Like
but
the fact that he was drunk.
as far as a punk song goes, it had a fun kind of riff in there with the chord progression. It was pretty ethereal. Like, once I looked up and found out what their genre was, I was like, this is the sound of that genre that they were going for. I don't know how it got so lost on the rest of the album, but Mystic Punk is exactly what describes post-apocalyptic province punk to me.
See, I actually got mad and scored it lower because this song is not punk at all.
Yeah, but it's post-apocalyptic province punk. That's exactly what I imagine for that.
From
From
a
an evil
parallel
parallel universe.
universe.
it kind of sounds like The Cure if they were terrible. But no, no, not exactly. No, the energy just went down.
He immediately
and-
backpedals.
Yeah, no, the energy just went down, and that makes me mad, and that's what happened.
Still think my favorite quote about The Cure out of you is, if you like Van Halen, you definitely don't like The Cure.
That's pretty much a fact.
All right. I really dig the guitar in this one. I think this is the one where the bass is actually prevalent, right, Connor? Is this where your bass note is?
No, it was way earlier.
It was way earlier.
You can hear the bass on this one.
I was about to say, I thought the bass was slapping in this one. And I think the bass and the guitar mainly carry this one for me. The vocals are all right.
I don't know. This was a very welcome change in tone from everything else on this album. It kind of pulled back a little bit, and we were in desperate need of that after the rest of this album. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. This is where the mixing gets way better.
It's like impressively better.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it's impressively good, but it is impressively better than the first half of this album.
There's a few of these songs that get like randomly good for like 10 seconds and then it stops.
I've been complaining about that the whole time.
I really think that this is a project recorded over a long time for that simple reason.
I think it's a project that was recorded in like 4 hours and they had 30 minutes to mix it.
Really, I think the first half of it was recorded in 30 minutes, and then I think they took a break for like a year, and then they came back and finished. Did some shows, played some live stuff, and then like, oh, yep, studio time. Because they've got, I think, 4 or 5 live albums out prior to this.
I didn't catch that. I didn't look, but
I just according to whatever Apple Music had at the bottom there.
Yeah, they have a couple live albums out.
So what you're saying is, yet again, the Album Book Club curse strikes and we get their worst album.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to go and listen to their live albums because I bet they are exactly what I'm expecting this to sound like, and it would score significantly better.
Yeah, if this band like wore costumes or everything was like themed or something, like I would totally get all of this. If it was some sort of skit or like the comedy was clearer or something made more sense. We talk about Here Come the Mummies all the time, not on the lives, but
I was gonna say,
but we talk about
ones.
it. Yeah, we how like it works because they're in costume and all that stuff, and I think a similar thing could apply here. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, that takes us to track 12, Keymaster's Hole. I gave this a 5 out of 10 and a thumbs up.
Nope.
I gave it a 3.5 out of 10.
This one got an 8.
Oh my god, 5.5.
I will say, oh man, the vocals on this one.
Are rough. They're the roughest thing I've ever heard.
No, he's just doing a wizard voice.
Really? I thought he was doing
Yeah,
a Dracula
totally.
impression. I was
Totally.
like, this is Castlevania Dracula right here.
It was just terrible. It took me out of everything. I didn't even think it was funny. I didn't think it sounded funny. I wasn't with it. The first note I have is, why is he doing that weird vocals? It's my very first note, followed immediately by meh.
I was so excited because this came on and I was like, oh my god, it's punk. I was like, it's here. We got it. And then he started doing the voice and I was like, it's punk in character, but it's still punk. And I really enjoyed the lyrics. I enjoyed what they were about because like there's so many times being in a band that you're like, okay, so what do we do now?
You like the lyrics, where do I stick my key in the Keymaster's hole?
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was great because they were done recording and they were like, okay, I have the keys. What do I do with them now? That was literally it, because that's such an accurate thing. You're up places and you could be done at like 4 a.m. and you're like, well, what the hell happens now? I think that...
That's
Yeah.
after every live.
Oh,
What do we do now?
Yeah, what do,
Song of the day, but
this one had
He's leaking the plot.
This one had a guitar solo.
It did. But I thought the guitar solo needed to carry a lot harder than that.
I think I missed something in this song. I don't know what vocal thing you all are talking about.
Go
It just
listen to
sounds
it.
I'm gonna
terrible.
need to hear
He
it again.
really sounds like if Christopher, have you ever heard the Christopher Lee albums, like his Christmas albums, Count Dooku?
Maybe. Yeah.
They
yeah.
go hard. That's exactly what he sounds like.
Yeah, I wrote Wizard, but then as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, he's Count Chocula. like it's exactly that vibe.
I think I need to go back and listen to that.
I don't
'cause,
like
the
Count
only thing I
Chocula.
have is that the vocals are mixed better than a lot of the other ones.
Yeah,
but we're kind of back to formula for like the first half, at least what everything sounds like. Not quite the mix, but
I did not dislike this song in any way. It just, I could not stop laughing. And thus, the music itself, I was like, this is just okay punk, but these vocals are it. It would have got a 10 for just the vocals.
Yeah, the vocals pissed me off. That was stupid.
All right. Track 13, Secondhand Emotion. I give this an 8.
I gave it a 6.5.
I give it a 7.5.
I gave it a 7.
All right, look. The second I saw the title of this, I instantly got pissed. I was like, they're definitely ripping off Tina Turner. And then, no, they didn't. They threw in those lyrics, and they're like, now that Tina's dead, they threw out a whole pretty much memorial song. And like, that's the way to do it. This is great. They took some of hers, made their own, filled it in. It was very punk for a while. Then they kind of changed it up towards the end and went to a really fun, pulled back bass beat and stuff. It was just a lot of fun and something very impressive I haven't seen out of this band.
So this song does this. It goes. It has this moment where it speeds up and then it stops and then they just speed it up again, and it ends. And that's a marching band show. I don't know. I thought this might be a different band at the beginning, which is why I think I liked it so much. Not really.
You know what's funny? I have almost the exact same note. I had to make sure that autoplay didn't play something because I didn't think I was at the end of the album. But I thought this was like an entirely new album. I thought this was a different band. But the background here is really nice.
Yeah, this was another welcome change. I think most of my notes are, why is this song placed where it is? But more importantly, why is the song above it placed where it is? Yeah,
Why is the song above it on the album at all?
That's probably fair. It's still a little repetitive. And this one sounds, I think, more like a live show than most of the rest of this album. But other than that, I was here for this song.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot more passion coming through in this one. Like, I felt it more. I was like, okay, now they're actually putting themselves out there with this.
This is the one I think that they maybe didn't have the most fun with, but they were the most comfortable with. This feels like one that they've been doing for a while, and it just worked. And that's something that's like hard to say about a lot of music in general. It's something you can just feel that it just works and that it's right for them. But this is definitely...
Well, a lot of newer music, because a lot of people forget that bands would write an album while on tour and then start playing those songs, close the set on tour. So by the time you heard the album, they had already worked it all out, and they wouldn't just go do that in the studio. But that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Forgotten art. All right.
Now you got to promote it for 10 weeks in a row on TikTok before you can drop anything.
Yeah, and you release one track every 3 days for 2 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
Step 1, tell me that you're bringing metal back. That is every ad I see anymore. I'm bringing classic rock back. No, you're not.
Or did I just make the song of the summer?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I started actively removing those from my feed now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Track 14, I'm Hungry. I gave this a 5 out of 10.
4. I give this one a 5.5.
I gave this one a 5.
This was a punk song. It wasn't a great one, but it was a punk song. They stuck true to their very final song, because the next song is not a song.
I'm not so sure it was punk because it was too long.
That's true.
Yeah, far too long. I found this one annoying. I thought the vocals here were annoying.
Yeah, I expected to get something interesting out of I'm Hungry, like Feed Me the Mustard, or we'd get something like a comeback.
Don't even worry about it.
Look at these giggle monsters over there.
When I think of Hungry, I, for whatever reason, think of Winger. And they kind of vaguely threw me for a loop here, because there was 2 notes that were the same as the Winger song. I was like, wow, they're going to do the Winger song. And then they didn't. And I think that really just disappointed me. But this was, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 or
Yeah.
6.
Ridiculous.
And then you expect the next track, because the last 3 have felt like 12 years, to be 2 minutes.
I just want you to know, when I read "I'm hungry," I said, "Hello, hungry. I'm Carl."
Also, when he kept saying that he was hungry in the track, I wrote down a note that says, "I get it, you're hungry. It's not my fault that you chose to live in an evil parallel world."
Have you heard of MF Doom?
Are you sure that it's not his fault? You don't know how he got there.
No, it's not my fault.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
100%.
is an evil parallel universe. You could be the ruler there.
Have you ever
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah, you could be the dictator, dude.
you ever
Alright.
stepped on a butterfly?
No.
Maybe that's why this is all in English, because you took over Germany in that world and forced them all to speak English.
I wouldn't force him to speak English. That's not nearly as funny as what I would want to do. I'd want to force them all to speak Mandarin. Because I feel like a German Mandarin accent would be really funny to hear.
I don't know, man. German's a cool language. They have lots of words for things we don't. Like, my favorite German thing is, like, they have different words for all the different types of love. Like, brotherly love is not the same as, like, loving your significant other. It just makes everything much clearer. Things are just more laid out and more crisp.
Yeah, like
and
anti-baby
They
pill.
have a lot of really cool subsects, but then they also have like 16 different words that can just mean a piece of cake. And just like a normal piece of cake. It's so weird.
Yeah, there's quite a few dialects and stuff, too.
All right. Anyone have anything else to say about the last song on the album?
Oh boy, we're gonna have fun with this one.
All right. Track 15. Outro, Noise Pollution. I gave this a 1.
0.
I'm going to amend my score to a 0.5.
That's valid.
1.
Look, it ain't a track.
No.
It ain't even noise music. It's like if I had a catatonic nightmare, like while like having passed out while on the flu is what I imagine I hear. It's degrading.
I bet if they played this shit over an LRAD, it would take out an entire crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that this should be banned by the Geneva Convention, but now that I think about it, you know what this sounds like? This sounds like if you turn on 6 different TVs, all playing America's Funniest Home Videos at exactly different times.
Can we do that after the live? Is that a good idea?
I'm quite convinced that this would wake someone up out of a coma so they could like turn it off. It's just so much going on.
I cannot say all of my notes about this song because it gets really mean in here. I get really mad around the 4-minute mark, it seems.
How much meaner can we get?
Well, like, so I like artsy things. A lot of this album is much more artsy than I care for. This is the point where it's not art anymore.
It's just annoying.
Yeah,
And-
I don't
and-
consider a Tinnitus Drone art either.
Right, and that's the thing. It was the feedback. It was the squeals. It was the stuff. And, like, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with masochism, and, like, maybe the whole thing is this is supposed to cause you pain.
The only thing I could think of is that they do this at the end of a live show so they can clear out the entire crowd about as fast as they can.
Yeah, because no one wants to listen to this slop.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna lie, if I hadn't already been at a show where they kind of did this and experienced it, I would say that I would want to be there and witness them play this live.
No,
But I have been to something like that, and I don't want to do it again.
feedback. Feedback on a delay pedal.
It almost killed Logan.
Feedback on a delay pedal is nothing like just whatever squealing pitches they had looping.
I legit think he like turned on his looper and turned on like a fuzz pedal, and then he just walked over to the amp and went.
No, I can tell you with like 90% accuracy, this is all the blooper cuts from the album paced together. This is some sort of super cut of, and it's got to be hilarious to them. Like that's the only thing I can think of is that it's some sort of super cut that they all watch every time together, and only they think it's funny, and they keep showing it to new people, and no one gets it but them.
I feel slightly called out right now.
We got a couple of videos like that.
I did not listen to this song. I skipped through this song to make sure that it was going to do exactly what I thought it did, and then I wrote 0 out of 10. And then I reread the title, and I was like, wait a minute. They warned us. That's worth a point. And
I
that is
did
how I got
listen to all 8 whatever minutes of this song.
It's like 750 something.
No, it's 8 minutes.
Is
It's
it 8?
8:02.
in pure anger and agony, I did this in the middle of my day.
Listen, I did have it as one, and then they started doing stereo effects, and that lost them another point. I was like, you were doing something. You warned me. Oh, nope, stereo. Screw you. And then also the Tinnitus drone. That feels like that's intentionally made to piss somebody off.
Yeah, so I actually thought there was going to be a song. So I wrote a 6 at the beginning because I was like, oh, cool. It's like the Dark Knight soundtrack where Hans Zimmer left all the pianos out in the field for months and months. And you can literally see in my notes where I wrote 6 and scribbled it out, and then wrote 4 and scribbled it out, and then wrote 1 next to it as the song kept going. Like, if you gave me a minute and a half of that at the end of the album, and that was the only way you could make a fade out work, that's fine. Just like 8 minutes of it was way too much, especially after I had just sustained all of the rest of the album.
Well, also since the intro's 2 minutes, it makes no sense to make the outro nothing but noise and 8 minutes. Especially when you're already at 15 tracks, where if you're just trying to break an hour, I get that. But you went over by 2 minutes. This is an hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah, but then it would have been a 5-minute outro, and we would have the same conversation about it.
But like,
but I would respect them more for just hitting an hour.
But punk albums are 35 minutes.
They're very short.
And that's like the point, is that you're tired at the end of it.
You're supposed to be moshing the whole time. I didn't want to mosh to any of these.
I don't know, the hamster one is a possibility.
Would throw hamsters to that song. The food, not the animal.
Okay.
That part's
Thin
not
ice, Logan.
That part's not making the Monday, Wednesday reel. You'll have to watch the whole video for your explanation of that.
All right, we ready to talk about pacing?
Sure.
I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 5.
I have 2 scores. One's a 3 and one's a 6. I'll explain.
4.1.
Look. You had me in the first half, not going to lie. The second half of this album, while produced significantly better, it just drags on and on and on because punk albums are supposed to be short. Once you pass 30 minutes, you're burnt. And it sucks that a lot of the better songs were past that burnt mark.
Yeah.
It's just what happens.
Yeah, so the reason I have 2 scores is I thought of this, like, what if it was the Titanic VHS and I had to stop in the middle and take the album out and restart it? I think it would have gotten a 6. Because I actually like how it all kind of fits. I mean, like all the songs actually kind of work together in a weird way. And the timeline doesn't make any sense, but there's just way too much of it. So if you gave me some sort of break in the middle, I feel like the songs as a whole could have been a 6. But because of the amount of time I spent listening to it and the last track, it got a 3.
Carl, I regret to inform you that I took about an hour break in the dead middle of this, like right where you want the break to be, completely on accident, and it still got a 4.1.
Maybe we pick like 4 songs, and it's like a LP. A punk LP would be 4 songs.
Yeah, but for them it'd be fucking 20 minutes long.
You're well over your cap this week.
I know, bro. For me, the reason I give it a 5 is mainly because I feel like the pacing feels higher than it should be. Like, everything just kind of sounds the same, and that's why it feeds into each other kind of nicely. But you have certain tracks on here that are just way too long, and, like, it doesn't break up the monotony of it enough. There's not enough variety in the music. Yeah, overall, I think it's just all right. Like, I can't really reward pacing when everything just sounds the same.
You really hate classic rock radio, I bet.
Eh.
We always used to say you listen to classic rock radio because they don't play the same 4 songs over and over again like the pop station, but you can't tell that they're not playing the same 4 songs over and over again because they all sound the same.
All right.
You're analyzing this way more than I thought.
Are you guys ready to talk about the album art?
Sure.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5.
I gave it a 4.
I give it a 7. I actually like it.
So I gave it an 8.
The more I look at it, the more it just confuses the heck out of me. Either these are really poorly built structures that they took a picture of and threw a filter over,
No, that's art.
or zoom in on it.
Bro, the resolution doesn't get better when you zoom. That's a TV lie. You can't see. You can't see the foundations on the building.
No, look at the clouds in the background. They're real clouds. That's the thing that throws me on these. Like, everything in the foreground is fake, and then you look at the clouds, and that's an HD picture of a cloud.
Dude, it's probably AI generated.
This isn't AI.
Let's say it doesn't look.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't look AI.
This is just-
if it is,
No.
it's gonna drop down to like a 1.
I can
but-
tell you
Yeah.
exactly what this is. This is just bad Photoshop.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
it looks like a filter thrown on over a picture.
The picture is all right. I think the art going on here is just kind of meh. I don't think it doesn't really go into the album a whole lot. Like, it doesn't go with the album a whole lot. I don't really feel. And then the text on the album, the bottom one, is almost completely illegible.
I almost prefer that. I think that looks the way that you see metal on bricks. That is fairly the most like decent part of this album art to me. The rest of it doesn't make any sense with what you're seeing. And then the little logos on the side, hate that.
Logos on the side aren't bad, but they're like actual name logo. I think it's pretty all right.
That one's fine.
Yeah,
that
I think
don't
their
bother
name
me.
logo is pretty cool. Pretty
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, I just thought the art was meh. I wasn't super into the text at the bottom, especially since there's no shading on it at all. Oh, it's Springfield.
It reminded me of Springfield from The Simpsons when they zoom out in the the
Yeah.
wide shots. I think it's just whenever I see a nuclear cooling tower now, I'm like,
That's
Homer Simpson.
I'm not sure why the patch of grass with mushrooms is taking up so much like percentage of this picture, but I had no issues with this album art.
Also,
I
what
thought-
is in
I am
danger
going-
of collapsing?
The nuclear reactor.
Probably society
That,
as a
that
whole.
was my guess, yeah.
We live in a society. That was terrible.
Society.
That's probably the worst Bane impression I've ever done.
That was Bane?
See, I'm telling you. You didn't even know.
Sorry to everybody listening to that.
Yep.
Carson just deafened you.
I couldn't cover it fast enough.
I'm telling them, like, A, they don't know, and B, they can hear me.
You just blew out your TV set at home. Jesse's ears, man.
For real.
It's gonna be funny when we put a like disclaimer at the end of the speaker build. It's like during one of the lives, Carson destroyed this speaker without even being at his house.
All right. Anything else on album art? All right. This takes us to album overall. Give this a 4.75.
I gave it a 4.5.
I'm going to say it was a Fantastic Four.
Ain't it
Carson, you're gonna be able to hold it together this time. Yeah, 4.5. It's very much not for me. It's probably for somebody. That somebody is definitely not me.
There were just a lot of interesting choices made here. I wish they focused a lot more on filling out their sound. Like, they end up sounding a lot thin. There's a compression problem, obviously. And, like, most of it feels, like, almost laughably thin. Especially when we get into, like, some of the sustained vocals and when they drag some stuff out. It can really kind of pull down that performance even more. And I cannot understate how much I liked some of the intros and how much I liked the instrumentation going on and some of the musicianship that we saw. However, when like the vocals come in and all the backtracks drop out and it becomes just this drone of the same thing over and over again, it just becomes boring, and I need more. I need more to latch onto, and that's basically what my review of this album is. I just wish they gave us more. I wish there was less fat in here. I wish they trimmed out a lot of the excess that we didn't need. A lot of these songs ended up sounding really similar to one another. I feel like we can cut out at least 3 or 4 of them and have a much better track listing, and then putting the amount of effort from those songs back into these ones and just adding more throughout, beefing up the tracks, doing more, being in time, using a click track. I feel like it all could have really helped.
I think if you cut all the rest of the songs on the album in half, you could probably cut 3 or 4. If not, it's probably like 6 to get to the length that should have been. But it really is just, I think Connor nailed it. Like, I don't know if it's not for me or I don't get it. This is one of those moments where I'm like, I actually know what I don't know here. I can't claim ignorance. I don't know what I don't know. I know what I don't know. And I don't know what's going on. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make any sense? I just don't. I don't think it wasn't for me per se. I just don't.
This album broke Carl.
No, because I mean, Logan can tell you when he sent me the album, I was like, oh, cool, I'll probably like this one. I typically lean a lot more punk than metal. If I'm going to lean one way or the other, if I want to be angry and want to listen to angry music, I usually listen to punk, not metal. I'm on the other side of the rest of you three, I think. But, it's kind of an interesting thing because I really expected to like this, liking a lot of German-influenced music, if not directly German music, and a lot of stuff like that. I don't know. I just don't think I got it, or it went over my head, or maybe the comedy is funnier if you understand it or listen to it more. The other thing is it's like it's very much in need of polish and in need of some trim. You're right. What's the saying? Diamonds are formed under pressure. It would take a lot of pressure to make this a diamond, but I think there's at least half a good album in here with some work. There's a lot of tracks that are actually pretty well written and pretty good and hilarious when you can listen to them. When other things aren't in the way. Get the drummer some coffee or whatever.
Make him sleep with a click track in his ear?
No, I mean, just some sort of legal stimulant. I don't even care if he's in time. I just want him to be ahead, not behind. And that almost makes me wonder if he just rushes the crap out of every concert and they just told him to slow down and that's what they got. But, it was a weird one because I really wanted to like it. And then here we are at the end with a 4 and I feel like a jerk like normal.
I don't feel like a jerk. Our opinions are subjective.
I think if the idea of this band is that I look at you and go, these are for handyman DIYers, do-it-yourself, everyday, normal Joes that just came to play, that is the only way I think I can take this with a grain of salt. Is if these were just guys that wanted to do it and they did it, and they've been playing live and someone's like, get a studio version, so they did. And if that's the case, this is a great effort at that. And there's clearly fun and there's a lot of energy through the tracks. I just don't know that studio is the move right now for this band. I am going to go listen to a live album or two and see how that is. But clearly energy is the way that they're working and the fun. And that's just hard to encapsulate in a studio recording. There's plenty of bands that I will not listen to any of their studio stuff and will only listen to their live stuff, like the Allman Brothers. They're never going to catch me listening to anything other than live out of them. Like Peter Frampton is the same way. It's just there's a different energy they bring to live that isn't great in the studio, and they have to take away to make it a polished, clean product. And I say fully stay away from that route. What you guys have here, as far as what could be good with a live sound, it was great and very enjoyable. When you started confirming to the studio, it wasn't necessarily the greatest. And yes, you can polish it up, but I think an altogether, all-around fun live show and fun live albums is better than forcing yourself to conform to a good studio habit.
What's interesting is a lot of bands have trouble kind of performing in the studio. So there's actually a really cool in-between that a lot of jazz bands will do, because it's wholly uninspiring to play jazz without anyone watching, because there's not, you still interact with the people around you, but it's one of those things that's really hard to capture in a bottle, like I think punk is. So what a lot of my favorite artists will do is they'll rent out a small venue and put mics up, tell everyone this is the live album. Rock bands have done it for for years and years and years. And if that's the case, you know what they really ought to do, so hopefully if they watch this, they can get something out of this here at the end if they've made it, is like rent somewhere, invite 30 or 40 of your best buds to come watch you guys play a live set, except set it up, set the mixer up, do everything the way you just did it here, and if you record this way with that energy, I bet we would have had a good album.
A killer one. Because
Well, cut out half the songs and then yeah.
well, that's the thing. I think we wouldn't have to because you'd feel the energy. They would
Right.
move with the crowd. That's what's so hard to capture about punk. And some of my favorite, because I love like Sex Pistols, Misfits, some of my favorite Sex Pistols stuff is just compilation stuff that they did where they got a bunch of punk players together. They're like, all right, we're going to perform a bunch of songs that we all wrote and do it together. And it's just some of the best stuff ever because no one particularly cares to get 100% of the things right, but it's all mostly right and it's a lot of fun.
And I bet you can find somewhere that's willing to accommodate you to do that. I mean, I know where we are. I can think of a few places that would accommodate a band to do that. Bring a handful of people in. You could bring the energy back if that's what's missing. I'm not sure that's what's missing, but if that is, that's a way to...
I think the call and response of energy is missing. I think you have a lot of your end of energy, and it's really hard to feed that into an empty room. I think if you've got 20, 30, 40 other guys sitting beyond that barrier or beyond that stage giving you raws back, you may not be able to hear it because you got in-ears. Maybe you were, or maybe you can because you're running just stage sound. But even being able to like feel that room, I think you'll get just enough more energy out of you and a whole lot of that pushback that we'll be able to feel in just in the music itself.
Yeah, the other thing, I kind of brought it up earlier, like in the world of technology we have now, with all the AI, I don't like AI mixing most of the time, but you can definitely do AI mastering, and there's definitely a ton of places online where you can hire someone to mix for basically nothing. I mean, I'm sure there's people that mix on Fiverr who do it for $20 a track, and yeah, they're only going to spend 20 minutes on your track for $20, whatever, but that's still going to be 20 minutes of someone that doesn't have your ears. We've talked about this before. It's so hard to remove yourself from the art enough to make a good mix and make a good master. That if that's another thing that's going on here, if they didn't have anybody else touch it or any of that stuff, it's actually almost impossible to mix your own music unless you do it like Prince or someone who has the final image in their brain and work backwards from that. That's almost what you have to do. You can't just go in a room and hit record and then mix your own stuff because you already know what it sounds like. And if you know that, you can't ever fix it. So it's kind of an interesting situation. So that would be my other advice is figure out a way to bring someone in to help you with the production part of it if you get to do that.
Yeah. All right. Anybody got anything else? What will we listen to next week?
Next week, we are listening to A Matter of Degrees by Work Drugs, suggested to us on a YouTube comment. That'll be next week.
Yep.
Said that like there was more.
Bye.
See you next week.
Sorry, Heimwerker.